How do you write the very first paragraph of your story? Hi, I'm C. I'm a fantasy author and a developmental editor of fiction. I make tools and novel planning guides for writers, which you could find over here. And Birds for Brains asks for advice on writing firsts, the first chapter, the first paragraph. I'm focusing on the first paragraph here, but if you're interested in more about the first chapter, hit me up in the comments. Let me preface this by saying that what I'm about to talk about are not writing rules. They're just things that I've noticed that help me, that I tend to respond to when I'm reading. There are also things that I've heard from agents and acquiring editors, folks who work in trad as well. And the idea is that in your first paragraph, or if you have a dialogue line as your start, your first 2 paragraphs, you want to be establishing who, where, and a sense of motion or conflict. This, along with the quality of the prose, is going to create that hook that's going to start to draw the reader in and get them to turn the page and keep reading more. Let's look at how that's done in Gideon the Ninth. I love this opener. A lot of people do, so I think it's a pretty good example. In the myriadic year of our Lord, the 10,000th year of the king undying, the kindly prince of death, Gideon Nav packed her sword, her shoes, and her dirty magazines, and she escaped from the house of the Ninth. 1 paragraph, 1 sentence, all 3 elements included. We have our who, Gideon Nav. We have our where, which is the house of the Ninth, and a bonus setting detail, which is a when, the myriadic year of our Lord, details of which allow us to very clearly clock that this is not an our world book. We have motion because Gideon is doing something in this first paragraph. She's packing her shoes, her dirty magazines, her sword. And we have conflict worked in 1 single word: escape. Think about how much heavy lifting each one of those words is doing. The sword and the dirty magazines are fantastic characterization details. They tell us a lot about Gideon. But that one word, escape, is what creates that hook, because it gets the reader to ask a question, which is, what is Gideon escaping from? Now, this kind of motion or conflict doesn't need to be a massive story level conflict. You don't need to be talking about the fight against the Dark Lord in your very first paragraph. But the idea behind the in medias res opening, which is nailed in Gideon the Ninth, is that your character is in the middle of doing something during that first paragraph. What are they in the middle of doing, and how does that thing they're doing have conflict and stakes associated with it? Then, much like Tamsin Muir did, how can you pick a word that distills those stakes or that conflict down into the smallest nugget possible, like the word escape? Again, not the only way to start a story, but probably one of the ways that's going to give you the safest and highest return from readers, especially as a newer writer.